Thank you for watching Dro TV. Welcome back to the CannaBiz show. Our guest today is Lauren Miele, founder, CEO of Kush Kards. It's an awesome cannabis greeting card and gift company. So Lauren, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Super excited to be here and to chat a little bit.
Yes. Thanks again. We met the lovely ladies you had at KushCon in Tampa a couple weeks back. And we're very excited to speak with you and learn more about Kush Kards. So I guess the first question I'll start with, Lauren, is tell us a little bit about yourself and what was your idea
Yes.
that you came up with Kush Kards?
Awesome. Well, again, thanks for having me on Dro TV and excited to share my story. So my name is Lauren and I am 31 years old. I'm originally from New York and I moved to Denver for Kush Kards around 6 years ago, which is great to still be out here today. I come from the fashion industry background, so fashion and home goods. I graduated the Fashion Institute of Technology where I had an associate's degree in visual merchandising, and I had a bachelor's in home products development, which my background has helped me every day in Kush Kards. Start it, launch it, be able to grow it, and really give itself a unique look, I would say. I thought of the idea of Kush Kards at the end of 2013. So it was a Christmas present. And I was just trying to find out, I was just trying to gift weed. I was just trying to gift my friend a way to smoke in a fun, festive way. So I was, riding the train, going to work, and I just literally had this idea, why not I roll his name in blunts and sew them to a card? So I would hand sew blunts in the shape of initials and characters or numbers based on people's birthdays. And I went to work that day and I had designed the card, but I had left that space open for me to go home and craft everything up and whatnot. So, I called my girlfriend and I'm like, I just made this card with weed on it. It spells someone's name. And she goes, like a Kush card with a K. Life changed. I swear. When she said that, I'm like, you're exactly right. It's a Kush card. And honestly, that aha moment is what led me to trademark Kush Kards. Call my mom, couldn't afford it. I'm like, listen, I don't know what this is, but this is something here. Kind of had that instant feeling. And then, I kind of just trademarked that from there. And that's how the Kush card was started. Was the first one was just kind of making a gift for a friend.
Wow, that's awesome. I love the startup story. Were you always entrepreneurial minded, or was this something where when the situation presented itself, you said, this is a business?
I was never entrepreneurial minded at all. I thought I was going to be working for a big company. My first and only job out of college was a fashion bath accessory designer. So I was making, home goods for Bed Bath & Beyond and Target and Kohl's. So it was so fun to see my ideas go from shelf to product. And, I had just graduated in June of 2013. So when I thought of Kush Kards in December, it's a quick 6 months after school. So I was well immersed into my job, and it was one of those things that just happened. I never thought I'd work for myself, but my boss knew before Kush Kards that I was going to do something for myself. So, and then it was born because I love smoking weed and I love stationery and home goods, which I was already currently in professionally. So it just kind of made sense when the two came across. I was like, wait a second, there is no cross between having cannabis options and stationery. So I was, was one of those things that just happened and didn't happen right away either. I thought of the idea in 2013, but all of 2014, I was still hand sewing cards. I mean, I was charging $50 a card. You got the weed. It came with a free bag. It was whatever you wanted. So it was like a stem to a flower was the blunt, you know what I mean? Or it was hanging off a balloon. It was so detailed. And I have all the images still of what they look like, because it became my after work kind of hobby, because when I graduated college, like most college students, after that 9 to 5, you have nothing else to do anymore. So it's so weird. So I don't know, I just use Kush Kards as that creative outlet. And when I gave it to people, I'm like, don't tell anybody. I'm like, don't post it, don't tell anybody. This is going to be a thing, but I'm not too sure what it is yet. So it took me about, I would say, would say a year and a half after like thinking about it, because 2015, I'm like, all right, it's been a whole year. This still isn't out there. Cannabis gifting is still not a thing. Let me go for it. So I decided to make the collection mass producible, which was very hard, but using my background in home products development, sourcing, learning how to communicate with factories, I was able to do all that. And April, 4/20 of 2015, I went to Denver on a girls' trip. I was like, let's see if this is going to work. I say fill my backpack full of dreams with Kush Kards, and some of my first ones are still my top sellers today, which blow my mind, to be honest. And I just went around to dispensaries, not knowing 4/20 was the busiest holiday, almost Christmas in Denver, because to New York, 4/20 means we're hotboxing or we're walking down, you know what I mean? It wasn't as festive as it was out here. And I left that trip with one dispensary sale of 50 cards. And then the story really started. It's kind of like the quick back end of leading up to even doing Kush Kards. And then even when starting, it still took me a year and a half later to move to Denver and quit my job. So I had that full 3 years experience of working in corporate, which I really do think helped. I'm glad I went through that.
Yeah, it probably gave you the discipline, knowing how to run a corporate structured business and
seeing all the things they did wrong.
That's how I've learned a lot of business, is working for other companies and figuring out what not to do. What are some of your top selling cards right now?
So the number one seller of all times is High Wishes. It is just the birthday card. It was, again, the first card I was like, let me just start making it. And I saw a button that said Big Wishes, and I'm like, I think we can do better than that. So it's kind of where just like High Wishes came about. So High Wishes is our top selling birthday. And then right now our new Plant Lady and Smoking, Grillin' and Chillin' is still our two newest cards and our two top sellers. Really fun and specialized for kind of any type of customer.
Excellent. How do you come up with designs, and can you talk us through the process of idea to prototype to finished product?
Got it. Well, ideas all day. I mean, there's Post-it notes all around here that you can't see, but it's really just the people who I smoke with or the people who I surround myself with, right? Like my team, my partner, my friends, my family. If we're all, around and there's a holiday, like for instance, Halloween, right? Me and a couple of friends were making cards, and I was just like, I need a new Halloween card. And all of a sudden someone said, Hocus Pocus, let's smoke this. And I'm like, that's it. You know what I mean? Like, and then, so it's really just the collaborative effort. I would say I do make it the final Kush card and what it looks like. But a lot of ideas and stuff come from just the people who I'm around. I also like to look for common icons. So like, a witch for, a witch or Hocus Pocus for Halloween, a Santa for Christmas. And then I try to see how I can make that cannabis related. So not really just going at a pot leaf on it. I actually often look to where to put the pot leaf last, is as if it needs it, because that's not really the point of the card. So then I take the icon with words, and I have a lot of cannabis words: stone, lit, hit, all of a dictionary of things that I try and kind of go back and rhyme off of. And so that's kind of the basic kind of general of how I get started. A lot of sketching, a lot of research. So I've researched the internet, Etsy, and Pinterest, because I'm trying to see what's not out there. Like I hate going to get I do have It's 4/20 somewhere because that's a classic, but I like to do something different. Like I'm So Stoned Over You and a picture of a stone, or Let's Burn and a camp log, like really trying to take that novelty aspect. And then you can kind of see already the crossover from my first career, because there was super novelty, shower curtains, flip flops. I mean, all that type of stuff. So it's cool to see kind of how I've taken novelty and made it into cards, but without looking too stoner-ish. That was my goal too. I wasn't going for that look. I was actually going against that look, because I was trying to, I am trying to remove the stigma based on the stoner art that is out there. So having a professional, classy option was super important to me, and having those words that I bounce off of, or definitely being high. I mean, high all day, but just smoking always helps my creativity. Yeah, now they just roll off my tongue. So too
Awesome.
many.
And do you have the production process down where if let's say you have an idea and you go, okay, I'm ready, we're going to put this into production. How
Mhm.
quickly can you have something ready?
So based on the product, but if it's a actual just greeting card design, I would say then usually it takes depends on like how far I'm trying to scale it. Like if I'm bringing it into wholesale, usually what I do is we hand make them here first. So that's how Kush Kards started, is very laborious. Like you might not even think, but there's almost like 10 steps that go into it, whether it's punching the holes or threading the string, cutting the string, folding the card, getting the envelope, putting it in the plastic, sealing the plastic, putting the one hitter on. Like there are so many steps that I've had to consider and reconsider as I grow Kush Kards, and I'm still changing the actual card. So I would say, like if I have a new design, always like to bring it in and test the market. So for instance, Plant Lady, Smoking, Grilling, and Chilling, we handmade those here in our factory, and then now they're coming in bulk from overseas, who, don't get me wrong, they're still handmade. They're just made over there a lot quicker.
Right.
And we can do it. So I'm thankful for that. So I would say around like 2 to 3 weeks if we're making it here, we're launching it. But 3 months if I'm actually trying to get it produced, which is why Christmas has been done for a long time now. So
Right. That's kind of what I was leading towards was especially where you have different holiday themed cards. I was just trying to, wrap my head around how long of a lead time you need from idea to finished product, especially when everything's so timely.
So timely, which is the great thing that I can make them here. Some companies can't. They only rely on overseas. Like we can make the card here. So that's why like for Halloween, like, it takes, I would say 2 to 3 weeks in production just to get, a new card launched. And that's the way I like to start. Because Halloween, think about it, like it's a greeting card kind of holiday, not really, but it's really big in the cannabis industry. So, always having to have options, but not investing in too much. So I'm not left over with anything. So I do like to make my cards year round. So my Tonight We Take Flight is a witch card that did so well just around Halloween. I just said, why not just bring it in all year round? So I really try to be careful with my wording so I can have the opportunity to keep it in stock and not just hand make it. So there's a lot of things that go with it, but important holidays are well thought out before. And Christmas, we have about 8 styles, 2 new styles for this year coming, and those were done and submitted early June. So I'm excited that they'll be in a couple weeks now.
Awesome. And this is completely women owned and run?
Completely women owned and operated. So I have about 5 women employees. And honestly, all over the age 35, many in their 40s. I provide a really great workplace for women who don't want to go back into the corporate world, or it just doesn't work for them, or they're looking, or their kids have went to school and they're looking for work. It's funny because I decided to start really hiring older, a little bit later in my career, just maybe not older, but has a resume, more of a resume and reliable. And, I really depend on them. So they come through and these women are crushing it. I provide a nice, friendly environment too. So having a team has been a big expansion because of labor. I was not doing it all myself, not paying myself, which is kind of how we start, right?
Sure.
But having to consider a lot of other people, a lot of things to juggle. But I couldn't have done it without them. I can't do it without them right now. So they're literally right now in the factory packing up every card that I have because our master distributor bought everything. So
Awesome.
That's a first.
That's great. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
I want to talk a little bit about growth. Reading, your story, you moved to Colorado, you got in one dispensary. Talk us through a little bit about your journey starting out. I'm assuming it went from trade shows and, how often were you reaching out, going to trade shows? I guess I guess the real question is like, how did you put yourself out there where everybody started to talk about Kush Kards?
Right. Great question. So when I started, when I got that one little sale, I went back to New York and I'm like, okay, who is doing anything with cannabis out here? Who can I connect with? Because I was on the East Coast too. So it was like, everything was really happening on the Midwest or, in California. And I actually had friends from high school who lived in Denver, which is why I really chose to focus there because I had a home base, right? So that's why that first trip went out to Colorado. But when I went back, I connected with Women Grow, which at the time was just getting started. So Women Grow is a networking community that meet once a month. And I started to show up at those because there was really no other option. But again, it was like women owned and there's just so new to the cannabis industry. So I feel like I did enter the market at a really good time when it was really starting to go legal in different states, and Denver had everything together. So Women Grow was my first form of networking, because what's great is that, every month they had a meeting in a different state. So, hearing about, Kush Kards was at Women Grow New York, then I started setting samples, and then all the other states of Women Grow started finding out about Kush Kards. And then, I started making a little bit more appearances back and forth to Colorado. So being involved where I sponsored the Women Grow 1-year anniversary, where I still consult with people who I met there today, which is great to, be in touch. So definitely the word of mouth started via Women Grow and social media, just started to start. And then, after, of course, when I was moonlighting for my job, when I got back to from Denver, I was, calling people from at 5 o'clock for my work day, which is still 3 o'clock here. So I was calling people and doing the cold calling and sending samples and whatnot until when I actually moved here, I was really able to start on the foot, like going to stores, doing trade shows, or doing more consumer events where I go to shows like the High Times Cup or back in the day, or, a flea market or whatnot. So it took me some time actually to start going to trade shows. Definitely it's not where I started because, going to something like Champs Trade Show, which is really my come up, part of the Women of Champs organization currently. They, it was a counterculture show, kind of like KushCon, where, smoke shops really buy everything for their store, any type of store. So, I always heard about this event. People were like, as I kept meeting people going to these B2C events, they're like, you need to go to Champs, but you need to be ready. And I wasn't ready. I was still hand making cards. I couldn't show up there,
Right.
hand making cards. So when I got my first custom order of 1,500 cards that me and my friends, we all got together for who even knows, probably weeks. And we're punching holes and making them. I'm like, something has to change. So because of my product development skills, I was able to find a factory, very small owned, which I still does my production today, which is great. And then I started going to Champs. So it wasn't until maybe 2019, I believe, 2018, 2019 is when I started going to Champs. And that is when things really took off wholesale. So I always tell people, start small, go to those markets, get the feedback. And then when you're ready to invest in a wholesale show, then go to the wholesale shows. But also at these shows, I split a booth. It took me 3 years to get my own booth. So I was splitting booths with people, because it's expensive. As a small business owner, it's expensive to go to trade shows. So,
Sure.
but once I started seeing the return is when kind of the wholesale trade shows really started to pick up for me. So It's a long journey. It's a little bit of everything, but definitely like wholesale trade shows towards the later half of it.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing all that, because I think it's important for anybody starting out to understand the steps that need to be taken. And really, I can tell from speaking with you that you've thought many moves ahead, where you knew you weren't ready for Champs yet. So, what do I need to do to get ready to be at that point? And so thank you for sharing that, because, we see a lot of people, where they jump right in full head steam, and that's great. But when they don't get the result they want, they kind of step back, or it kind of deflates that motivation, where maybe if they were a little bit more realistic in their expectations, they'd realize, okay, it didn't make sense to go to Champs with not much of a product to sell. Or
Right. And it takes trial and error. Unfortunately, some do it the very expensive way. Like I came out and I haven't changed my card. I mean, I've changed my card now since, but I try to come out strong and not change it. So I rather, like I said, it took me some time to develop the brand and the look of it. So I always recommend to people who come out with products is test the market, don't put all your efforts right away. Test it, research it, sample it, get the samples first. And yeah, really do the due diligence before you start and throw yourself into a market that is very competitive. So
yeah, awesome. Can you talk a little bit about how you had to pivot during the pandemic?
Sure. So I would say first the pivoting in general, pivoting towards different industries. Like, so when I started going to Champs, right, like I just had the card where you could put the pre-roll in. The one hitter was not thought of yet. So when I started going to Champs, customers, because you see the customers after show to show, people kept saying, well, we can't tell them where to find the pre-roll because we're in a legal state and whatnot. So I had to think of a way to make my cards relatable and adapt to Champs with just going there. So that's when the one hitter came about, and it changed my business completely. I mean, it changed my everything, really. We kind of doubled overnight, I would say, because
Wow.
the reach with Champs, like all the chains and the smoke shops, they now saw this card, no hesitation. Because the one hitter, why not have a card? Why not have an accessory? This is pretty inexpensive compared to glass at the show. So I would say my first pivot was definitely extending Kush Kards to be more relatable to a different type of market. And then, when 2020 came, boy, it was interesting because remember, I put a lot of energy into the wholesale side of it where trade shows were canceled. So at first I had no idea what to expect. There were still stores open and still people placing small orders, but, even in dispensaries where they were deemed essential, my cards were not in the waiting room where they were doing the, dropping off where you could pick up. They were in the store, not seen. So where I thought maybe I would thrive in that aspect didn't kind of work out too much, but TikTok started, and that's when really, videos, it really started to come around. And I'm like, all right, well, let me hop on TikTok. This is a great way to reach my consumer. It took me quite a long time to try and master it because, cannabis guidelines on social media is crucial, and it's really hard to get around. So I would say my first account, now on my fifth, by the way, my first account, we were at about 80,000 followers and they permanently deleted us. So, but before that one account got me through 2020. It made me learn, it made me grow. It connected me with my consumers. I made a mystery box where I would just started pulling things out of the box on TikTok, made $10,000 in a month just off of mystery boxes. I was like, I couldn't believe it. I was just trying something. So that's why I say, social media is a great way to try things, to get people's responses. It's a free access to your customer. The problem with that we get, though, is that it was very hard for us to reach our customer. So when I was getting those reaches, I was 100% grasping on them. And then they go on my newsletter, and it's a constant way for them to keep in touch with me when my accounts, 5 accounts later, kind of keep getting taken down. It's unfortunate because you kind of disappear from your customer when they want to see you, but it's not your fault. So having, multiple channels, I think, and that's getting off topic, but TikTok 2020, that's how I pivoted. And then when trade shows came back is when my account got deleted. So it's funny how it kind of like, I try to think of it like, okay, TikTok helped me, and then it put me right back to where I started. Took me many months to get my mindset like that, but you kind of have to pivot your mindset because it was so much work was lost from that, but still here.
Yes, you are. And doing great. Any marketing strategies, social media strategies you can share with us and the
No
viewers?
strategy. No strategy over here. I should really have one. Honestly, I've tried to hire people and it just hasn't worked out for me. I think social media is so crucial to your business that it needs a lot of time and dedication. So what I started to do, I think what 2020 helped me do was show my face a little bit more, be more interactive, show the behind the scenes. It really got myself, not necessarily dancing to trends, but how do you take the trend and make it your own? So I know that I have categories within types of things that I like to post. So quotes, because they're shareable. So shareable content means quotes, things that people can relate to. And then myself and talking about small business, because a lot of my followers are small business related or looking for tips. Also talking about how, some home and gift stores or adult stores are not really ready for Kush Kards when they're clearly ready because of where we are. So normalizing in that sense, trade show content, honestly, just really being in the present. So I always say the reason why I post on social media is so that one day when I write a book, I can go back and be like, okay, I was doing that at that point. I remember going to that trade show. I really try to keep it in the moment. So it's another way to document my story just via social media. So, hopefully like my goal obviously one day is to have Kush Kards here long past me. So what a great way for them to see the come up, basically.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And I wish another 5, 10, 20 years success.
Thanks. I mean, I'm in it. I'm in it to win it. No going back now.
Yeah, no, you're in it and you're definitely winning. So that's great. I've got one more question for you. Every entrepreneur, especially where you have like a tangible product that you thought of the idea and came up with, every entrepreneur loves to hear positive feedback, especially like from a customer that's so excited about the product. You have a story or, specific comments that you usually get about some of your cards, or maybe I don't want to say change someone's life. Maybe it did, but
I mean,
really just, something that warms your heart.
Yeah. So honestly, that great question again is kind of the reason why I still do it or do put my motivation is because of the reactions. I mean, you have all types of people. I mean, this card is not for one demographic. It's for really anyone who likes to smoke weed, anyone who likes to consume or give a card to someone. It's really just like you said, the reactions, right? I've got stories like this helped save my relationship. Or, I mean, honestly, if I did just think of one of someone who bought a birthday card and they gave it to their brother. I didn't know the brother was sick. He said that he passed away a month later, but within that month, they talked about the card and how great it was and the big blunt that she put on it. So it's like, I guess Kush Kards is a part of just like really important memories in people's lives, or creating a memory that they won't forget. Because if you haven't seen a Kush Card and there's a joint in there or there's a hitter in there, I guarantee it made that person's day better. So really being able to reach that consumer and bring them an experience through Kush Kards. Like, I know I'm not selling something that will not do something for somebody one day. So I love hearing just all different types of reasons people give cards. The naughty cards has been so funny to kind of hear, like when people see it, oh, I know exactly who to get that for. That's my favorite part of Kush Kards is when people see it, they know exactly who to give it to, or they're like, that instant customer. And I think that's what I was going for when I started, that instant moment. You get high, that instant customer that you can get it for. So I've just enjoyed, seeing the comments and just connecting with people on social media that the card just, really made their day.
Awesome. Great way to end it.
Yeah, right. Got me crying over here.
I usually don't do that to women, but anyways, Lauren, thank you again. It was a pleasure speaking with you. Please let everybody know the best place they can find you and Kush Kards.
For sure. So Kush Kards with a K. So kushkards.com, and as well as the same, really all of our social medias. Instagram is our biggest one, and also check out my personal self, Lauren Miele, on LinkedIn, as I'm starting to share more of some things that we talked about today here with a different type of platform.
Awesome. And if you enjoyed this episode, make sure you go down and hit the like button for Lauren and Kush Kards. And if you want to see more great content like this, make sure you subscribe to Dro TV on YouTube. Lauren, thank you again. Everybody go check out Kush Kards. All the links will be in the description below. Thanks again for coming on Dro TV. That's it, everyone. Thank you. Goodbye.